It began with an unusual silence inside Buckingham Palace, a silence so heavy that even veteran aides reportedly avoided eye contact as they crossed the marble corridors. Then came the image that sent shockwaves through royal watchers everywhere. Prince William and Princess Anne leaving a private meeting visibly emotional, their expressions carrying the kind of fear the monarchy has spent generations hiding from the public eye. And at the center of it all stood one devastating concern: King Charles III. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Reports suggest the atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace changed dramatically in just a matter of hours after senior aides were summoned for what insiders described as an emergency private consultation regarding the king's condition. What began as quiet whispers circulating through palace administrative corridors quickly evolved into something far more alarming. According to royal correspondents familiar with internal operations, William abruptly canceled multiple private engagements without offering any explanation to the public, a move that immediately triggered speculation among those who closely monitor the routines of the future king. Palace insiders whisper that the cancellation was not connected to scheduling conflicts or ceremonial adjustments, but rather to an unexpected development involving Charles himself, one serious enough to force senior members of the royal household into immediate crisis discussions behind closed doors. And while Buckingham Palace attempted to project calm to the outside world, those inside reportedly noticed subtle but unmistakable signs of growing fear among staff members who rarely allow emotion to interrupt protocol. What disturbed palace veterans most was the behavior of Princess Anne. For decades, Anne has carried the reputation of being the monarchy's most emotionally disciplined figure, a woman so devoted to duty that even personal hardship rarely altered her public composure. Yet aides reportedly described her in recent days as deeply shaken but determined, moving through palace meetings with an intensity that immediately alarmed senior officials familiar with her normally unshakable demeanor. Sources close to royal operations claim Anne held several unusually private discussions with William as concerns surrounding Charles allegedly intensified behind the scenes. At the same time, senior royal staff were quietly instructed to tighten internal communications, with insiders suggesting that certain conversations regarding the king's health were deliberately restricted to an extremely limited circle within the institution. The decision reportedly created an atmosphere of suffocating secrecy inside Buckingham Palace, where even longtime aides began sensing that the monarchy was confronting something far more serious than the public had been led to believe. Some royal correspondents later compared the tension to the painful days surrounding the decline of Queen Elizabeth II, when fear and uncertainty quietly spread through the royal household long before official statements acknowledged the severity of the situation. But perhaps the most chilling detail of all involved the unusual movement reportedly taking place between Clarence House and Kensington Palace. According to various interpretations of palace activity, vehicles connected to senior royal operations were seen traveling repeatedly between residences as William and Anne allegedly coordinated urgent discussions regarding the king's condition and the growing pressure now facing the institution itself. Reports suggest Charles may have experienced a sudden physical setback significant enough to force difficult private conversations about the immediate future of the monarchy. Those whispers only intensified after several royal aides were allegedly instructed to prepare contingency communication strategies in case the situation deteriorated further. And while no official confirmation emerged, the emotional expressions seen on William and Anne's faces after that private meeting told a story that no palace statement could fully contain. For the first time in years, even loyal supporters of the crown began openly questioning whether the royal family was quietly preparing for a transition they desperately hoped could still be avoided. Yet behind all the secrecy, protocol, and carefully managed silence, one terrifying reality reportedly haunted the senior royals more than anything else: the possibility that the institution built to symbolize stability was now entering one of the most emotionally dangerous periods in modern royal history. But what truly terrified the royal inner circle was not simply the king's condition, it was a realization that the monarchy itself might be approaching its most dangerous turning point in decades. Reports suggest the palace tried desperately to conceal the gathering that took place behind closed doors late that evening. Yet too many senior figures arrived, too many security protocols changed, and according to insiders familiar with royal operations, the emergency meeting lasted far longer than anyone expected. Something serious had happened and William wanted answers immediately. As concerns surrounding King Charles III quietly spread through the upper ranks of the monarchy, Buckingham Palace reportedly transformed into something far colder and far more tense than the public could possibly imagine. Palace insiders whisper that the emergency strategy meeting was assembled with unusual urgency, bringing together senior royals, constitutional advisors, and medical figures in what some staff members later described as one of the most emotionally charged private consultations in recent royal history. The timing alone immediately raised alarms. Several aides allegedly received late-night instructions altering movement schedules inside the palace, while others, were quietly redirected away from sensitive areas without explanation. To veteran royal staff, the atmosphere reportedly felt deeply familiar, evoking painful memories of the final months surrounding Queen Elizabeth II, when carefully controlled silence often concealed far more serious realities unfolding behind closed doors. But what truly intensified the growing anxiety inside palace walls was the unexpected arrival of Princess Anne. According to sources familiar with royal scheduling operations, Anne had allegedly cancelled public commitments earlier that day, with almost no warning, a move that immediately stunned palace observers because of her reputation for unwavering discipline and relentless duty. Reports suggest she arrived unusually late at Buckingham Palace after holding several private consultations elsewhere, and those who witnessed her entering the emergency meeting reportedly noticed a level of emotional strain rarely associated with the Princess Royal. For decades, NNE has been regarded as the monarchy's immovable anchor during periods of instability, the one senior royal capable of suppressing personal emotion in service of the institution. Yet insiders now whisper that even she appeared unsettled as discussions regarding Charles allegedly grew more serious behind closed doors. The emotional gravity of the moment only deepened as William reportedly demanded what one palace source described as full transparency regarding the king's prognosis. That detail sent shockwaves through royal circles because it suggested something extraordinary was unfolding behind the carefully protected facade of royal stability. The future king, long trained to maintain calm under pressure, was now reportedly pushing for answers with an urgency that reflected not only fear for his father, but growing concern about the future of the monarchy itself. As the meeting continued late into the evening, palace staff were allegedly instructed to use alternative entrances and restricted movement corridors in an effort to avoid media attention gathering outside the royal residences. Those extraordinary precautions only fueled speculation that the palace was desperately attempting to contain a rapidly escalating crisis. Royal correspondents monitoring the situation soon began noticing unusual patterns between Clarence House and Kensington Palace, while insiders whispered that Charles himself had recently appeared physically exhausted during several private briefings connected to constitutional matters. Different interpretations of those meetings describe a king increasingly determined to fulfill his duties despite mounting physical strain, even as senior advisors quietly questioned how long such pressure could realistically continue. Reports suggest internal fears began growing over whether Charles would be capable of maintaining several upcoming constitutional responsibilities if his condition worsened unexpectedly. That possibility reportedly triggered into NSE private discussions regarding continuity, succession planning, and the emotional toll now falling upon William with terrifying speed. Because behind every carefully controlled palace statement and every silent corridor conversation, one painful truth was beginning to emerge with devastating clarity: the monarchy was no longer merely managing a health concern. It was confronting the possibility of an institutional crisis capable of reshaping the future of the crown itself. And as whispers intensified behind palace walls, another troubling reality quietly began to emerge, one involving succession, stability, and the unbearable pressure now falling directly onto William's shoulders. For years, Prince William prepared for the weight of the crown, but according to royal insiders, nothing could have prepared him for this moment, the moment when preparations suddenly started feeling frighteningly real, and those closest to the heir reportedly noticed a dramatic shift in him almost overnight. What had once been a distant constitutional destiny suddenly became an immediate emotional burden pressing down on him with terrifying force. Reports suggest William began holding more high-level constitutional discussions than ever before, engaging in private consultations with senior palace advisors, legal officials, and trusted members of the royal household, as concerns surrounding King Charles III quietly deepened behind closed doors. Those familiar with palace operations claim the atmosphere around the future king changed dramatically in a matter of days. The calm discipline that had long defined William reportedly gave way to visible emotional fatigue, with aides noticing moments of unusual silence, shortened conversations, and an intensity that reflected the growing pressure now surrounding him. For years, he had trained for kingship through ceremony, diplomacy, and controlled preparation. But insiders whisper that nothing in royal protocol could truly prepare a son for the ability of watching his father weaken while simultaneously being forced to consider the future of the monarchy itself. As fears surrounding Charles allegedly intensified, palace staff reportedly became increasingly aware of the emotional toll the situation was taking on William privately. Sources close to the household claim he was attempting to maintain composure in public while carrying mounting anxiety behind palace walls, a balancing act that became harder with each passing day. The emotional strain reportedly grew even more severe after a deeply troubling update regarding Charles's condition was privately delivered during one of the palace's emergency consultations. Insiders now whisper that the meeting left William visibly overwhelmed, forcing him into one of the most emotionally difficult moments of his adult life. Those closest to the heir claim he understood in that instant that the crown was no longer an abstract future responsibility, waiting decades away. It was approaching him now, faster than anyone had expected, and under circumstances filled with fear, uncertainty, and heartbreak. Senior courtiers reportedly began quietly discussing accelerated transition scenarios behind closed doors, not because any formal decision had been made, but because palace officials allegedly recognized the need to prepare for possibilities once considered too sensitive even to mention aloud. The quiet shift in conversation reportedly sent waves of unease through the institution, where whispers about continuity and succession slowly began replacing the confidence that had long defined the monarchy's public image. Amid the growing tension, reports suggest Catherine, Princess of Wales, became increasingly protective of William behind the scenes. Those familiar with the couple's private dynamic claim Catherine recognized the enormous psychological burden now falling upon her husband, and quietly moved to shield him from additional emotional strain wherever possible. Palace inside. Heirs describe a future king carrying not only the fear of losing his father, but the crushing realization that the stability of the crown itself might soon depend entirely upon his ability to endure unimaginable pressure without collapsing beneath it. Yet while William struggled to maintain control internally, another figure within the royal household reportedly stepped forward with cold determination and unwavering focus: Princess Anne. Sources claim Anne became a stabilizing force behind the scenes, privately guiding discussions and attempting to contain growing fears within palace operations before panic could spread further into the institution. For William, her presence reportedly became one of the few remaining pillars of certainty during a moment when almost everything else around him suddenly felt fragile. Because beneath the formal meetings, constitutional briefings, and carefully managed public appearances, a devastating emotional truth continued haunting the future king. The monarchy he had spent his life preparing to inherit might now be moving toward its most painful chapter in generations. But while William struggled with the emotional burden of the future, Princess Anne appeared focused on something even more urgent: protecting the institution before panic could spread beyond palace gates. If the monarchy has an emergency guardian, many believe it is Princess Anne. Iron-willed, disciplined, and famously unshaken by chaos, Anne has spent decades protecting the crown from crisis. But insiders now whisper that even she struggled to contain her emotions, as the seriousness of Charles's condition became impossible to deny. As uncertainty deepened inside Buckingham Palace, reports suggest Anne quietly moved into a central role within internal palace coordination, operating with the kind of cold discipline that has defined her entire royal life. Yet beneath that discipline, palace aides reportedly sensed something profoundly different this time. Staff members familiar with Anne's famously controlled demeanor, allegedly described her as focused but visibly heartbroken, carrying herself with determination while privately confronting the painful reality that her brother's condition may have become far more severe than the public understood. For years, Anne has been viewed as the monarchy's most dependable protector, a royal who rarely allowed emotion to interfere with duty. But according to insiders familiar with recent palace discussions, the emotional toll surrounding King Charles III has shaken even the institution's strongest figures in ways few could have imagined. The bond between Anne and Charles reportedly became central to the emotional fallout, now spreading quietly through the royal household. Unlike the carefully managed public image often associated with the monarchy, Those close to palace operations whisper that the relationship between siblings has always carried deep personal loyalty shaped by decades of shared pressure, sacrifice, ice, and institutional responsibility. They endured scandals together. They survived years of public scrutiny together. And now, insiders claim Anne found herself confronting the terrifying possibility of losing not simply a king, but the brother who stood beside her through the monarchy's most turbulent modern chapters. Reports suggest she privately urged unity among senior royals as fears surrounding Charles allegedly intensified behind closed doors. Those conversations reportedly became especially urgent as palace tensions grew over how to maintain institutional stability, while uncertainty surrounding the king continued spreading internally. Sources claim Anne understood better than almost anyone that panic inside the royal household could become just as dangerous as the health crisis itself. And so while others struggled emotionally behind the scenes, Anne reportedly focused on preserving order, discipline, and continuity before fear could fracture the institution at its most vulnerable. Rebel moment. As the days progressed, royal aides were allegedly instructed to prepare contingency communication plans in the event of further developments regarding Charles's condition. That decision reportedly sent waves of anxiety through Buckingham Palace because such preparations are rarely activated unless senior officials believe circumstances may deteriorate rapidly. Palace veterans familiar with constitutional operations now quietly compare Anne's current role to that once played by Queen Elizabeth II during periods of national crisis, a stabilizing presence tasked with holding the institution together, while uncertainty grows around it. Reports suggest Anne made repeated visits to Clarence House during this period, often holding lengthy private discussions away from the public eye. Those movements did not go unnoticed by royal correspondents, who increasingly began sensing that something far more serious was unfolding behind palace walls than official statements were willing to acknowledge. Insiders whisper that each visit carried growing emotional weight as Charles reportedly continued pushing himself through constitutional responsibilities despite visible physical exhaustion. Yet while Anne fought to maintain calm internally, another deeply troubling reality slowly began taking hold throughout the royal household. The more palace officials attempted to manage the crisis quietly, the more emotionally isolated the senior royals themselves appeared to become. Because behind every controlled statement, every adjusted schedule, and every carefully protected palace meeting, the fear continued growing that the monarchy was drifting toward a moment from which there would be no easy recovery. Yet the deeper Anne moved into crisis management, the more one painful truth began haunting the entire royal household. The public still had no idea how serious things may have become. The silence coming from Buckingham Palace soon became louder than any official statement. The Owl Watchers noticed it. Journalists noticed it. Even longtime supporters of the monarchy began asking the same unsettling question. What exactly was the palace trying so hard to contain? In the days following the emergency consultations surrounding King Charles III, the atmosphere surrounding the royal household reportedly shifted into something unusually controlled, tense, and deeply unnatural. Palace statements, once carefully warm and reassuring, allegedly became shorter, colder, and far more calculated in tone. Every sentence appeared measured. Every appearance seemed scrutinized. Every public update felt as though it had passed through layers of internal caution before reaching the outside world. According to royal correspondents familiar with palace operations, even veteran journalists began sensing what one insider described as an unusual atmosphere of restriction developing behind palace walls. Information reportedly stopped flowing in the normal way. Routine confirmations allegedly became delayed without explanation. And for many who have spent years studying the rhythms of the monarchy, the silence itself slowly became the story. Because historically, the royal institution speaks most carefully when fear is growing internally faster than it can be controlled publicly. As speculation intensified, reports suggest several royal appearances were quietly adjusted at the last minute, fueling deeper concern among observers already watching the situation closely. Certain engagements connected to Charles allegedly underwent sudden scheduling changes without clear public reasoning, while other appearances were scaled back entirely behind the scenes. Media insiders claim those adjustments were not isolated incidents, but part of a broader internal effort to manage the king's workload as concerns surrounding his physical condition allegedly deepened. Sources familiar with palace discussions now whisper that Charles had quietly begun reducing portions of his responsibilities, away from public attention, despite remaining determined to project resilience whenever possible. That contrast reportedly became one of the most emotionally difficult realities for senior royals to manage. Publicly, the monarchy continued presenting stability and continuity. Privately, however, insiders claim conversations regarding fatigue, recovery, and constitutional pressure were becoming increasingly urgent within the institution itself. Different narratives reportedly began circulating among royal media circles, with some insiders insisting the situation remained manageable, while others warned that the palace was preparing for possibilities far more serious than the public realized. The conflicting interpretations only intensified the atmosphere of uncertainty already surrounding Buckingham Palace. But the emotional pressure exploded into public view after images of Prince William and Princess Anne, appearing visibly distressed, began spreading rapidly online. Those images, reportedly unsettled even loyal supporters of the monarchy, because they revealed something rarely seen from senior royals: unfiltered emotional strain. For decades, the institution has survived by maintaining control, composure, and discipline even during periods of enormous personal hardship. Yet this time, observers noticed cracks beginning to form beneath the carefully protected exterior. Royal commentators soon began drawing comparisons to previous moments of historic uncertainty inside the House of Windsor, particularly the emotionally fragile periods surrounding the final months of Queen Elizabeth II. Palace veterans allegedly recognized the pattern immediately: restricted information, tightened operations, carefully choreographed appearances, and growing anxiety among senior figures all pointed toward an institution attempting to maintain calm while privately confronting instability. And as those fears continued spreading through media circles and public conversation alike, Anat, her devastating truth reportedly began weighing heavily on the royal family itself. Because behind every controlled statement and every silent adjustment to palace operations, the emotional burden inside the monarchy was becoming harder for even its strongest figures to conceal. The crown may have continued projecting stability to the outside world, but internally, the strain of uncertainty was reportedly pushing the family closer toward emotional exhaustion with every passing day. And while the palace fought to maintain calm in public, the emotional toll inside the family itself was reportedly becoming impossible to hide any longer. According to various interpretations from palace insiders, there was one deeply emotional moment that left even seasoned royal staff shaken, a moment involving Prince William, Princess Anne, and the king himself. And those who witnessed it reportedly understood immediately that the monarchy had entered a completely different chapter. What began as another tightly controlled private discussion inside Buckingham Palace allegedly evolved into one of the most emotionally devastating conversations the royal household has faced in years. Reports suggest King Charles III held an unusually personal family conversation behind closed doors, departing from the formal restraint that has long defined royal crisis management. According to insiders familiar with the atmosphere surrounding the meeting, Charles appeared determined to speak openly about the realities now confronting both his family and the institution itself. That alone reportedly stunned several palace figures, because emotional vulnerability has rarely been permitted within the machinery of the monarchy. Yet those close to the situation claim the king understood that the gravity of the moment could no longer be softened through protocol, carefully managed schedules, or optimistic public messaging. The fears surrounding his condition had reportedly reached a point where even the strongest members of the family could no longer emotionally distance themselves from what might lie ahead. Sources now whisper that the emotional impact on William was immediate and overwhelming. Palace insiders claim the future king became visibly emotional following the conversation, struggling to maintain the composure expected of him after hearing what many believe was one of the most difficult personal updates of his life. For years, William has carried the burden of preparing for the crown with discipline, patience, and restraint. But according to those familiar with the aftermath of the meeting, this moment reportedly pierced through every layer of royal conditioning he had spent decades building around himself. Staff members allegedly noticed a dramatic change in his demeanor afterward, describing a man attempting to carry unbearable emotional pressure while still protecting the stability of the institution around him. The weight of succession, duty, and family loss suddenly stopped feeling theoretical. It became painfully immediate, and while William reportedly fought to regain emotional control, insiders claim Anne herself struggled to maintain composure as she left the meeting. That detail reportedly shook palace staff deeply, because Anne's emotional discipline has long been considered almost immovable within royal circles. Yet according to various interpretations of the evening, Even the Princess Royal appeared unable to fully conceal the heartbreak now spreading quietly through the family. Those who witnessed the aftermath later described the atmosphere inside Buckingham Palace as somber and surreal, with many staff members privately sensing that the monarchy had crossed into a profoundly uncertain chapter. Long-standing fears surrounding Charles's health reportedly stopped feeling distant in that moment, and instead became painfully real for everyone involved. Sources suggest conversations among senior family members quietly shifted toward responsibilities movie, NG forward, contingency planning, and the frightening possibility that the institution might soon be forced to confront changes it desperately hoped remained years away. The emotional shockwaves allegedly spread far beyond the immediate family, affecting aides, advisors, and longtime palace staff who had spent decades serving the crown through moments of triumph and crisis alike. Insiders claim many within the royal household understood immediately that this was no longer simply a private medical concern being carefully managed behind palace walls. It had become an emotional reckoning capable of reshaping the future direction of the monarchy itself. And as fear, heartbreak, and uncertainty continued spreading through the institution, one haunting reality remained impossible to ignore. The crown was now standing at the edge of a future nobody inside Buckingham Palace truly felt prepared to face. But even amid heartbreak and uncertainty, one final question now hangs over the monarchy. And the answer could reshape the future of the crown itself. For decades, the British monarchy has projected permanence an institution designed to outlive scandal, heartbreak, and political upheaval. But insiders now whisper that Charles's health concerns have exposed something the palace fears most of all: vulnerability at the very center of the crown. As uncertainty surrounding King Charles III continued spreading quietly through Buckingham Palace, discussions reportedly intensified behind closed doors regarding the future stability of the monarchy itself. What once seemed unshakable now appeared increasingly fragile to those operating within the highest levels of royal administration. According to palace insiders, the emotional strain gripping senior members of the royal family has become inseparable from a deeper constitutional anxiety slowly building beneath the surface. The institution built upon continuity, tradition, and controlled resilience suddenly finds itself confronting a stability it has spent generations trying to prepare for yet desperately hoping to avoid. Reports suggest the growing fear inside palace walls is no longer limited to concerns about Charles's health alone. Instead, insiders claim officials are becoming increasingly consumed by what could happen to the monarchy if circumstances deteriorate suddenly and without warning. Because history has repeatedly shown that moments of royal uncertainty can quickly evolve into periods of national instability, when the crown appears emotionally or structurally vulnerable. At the center of those fears now stands Prince William, who insiders increasingly describe as operating within what feels like a transitional phase long before anyone expected such a shift to begin. Reports suggest William has quietly assumed a far greater level of strategic involvement in palace operations, as constitutional discussions surrounding the monarchy allegedly grow more urgent. Those close to royal administration claim the future king is now being viewed internally not simply as the heir waiting for a distant future, but as a figure who may soon need to shoulder extraordinary institutional responsibility under emotionally devastating circumstances. That reality reportedly weighs heavily on him, particularly as he continues balancing personal grief, public expectation, and the enormous pressure of preserving stability within an institution now facing one of its most emotionally uncertain chapters in decades. Meanwhile, Princess Anne is reportedly becoming even more determined to preserve unity inside the royal household, before internal fear and public speculation begin undermining confidence in the crown itself. Sources familiar with palace discussions claim Anne has privately emphasized the importance of discipline, continuity, and solidarity among senior royals, recognizing that visible division during a period of national uncertainty could deepen instability surrounding the monarchy. Her role reportedly mirrors the quiet strength once associated with Queen Elizabeth II during moments of profound institutional turbulence, when emotional restraint became essential to protecting the crown's image of permanence. Outside palace walls, public sympathy for Charles has reportedly grown dramatically, as concerns surrounding his condition continue dominating royal conversations. Even critics of the monarchy appear increasingly affected by the emotional weight now surrounding the king's struggle, with many seeing him not only as a monarch but as a man attempting to fulfill impossible responsibilities while privately battling enormous physical and emotional strain. Yet behind that public sympathy, insiders whisper that royal strategists are quietly preparing for multiple constitutional possibilities should circumstances worsen unexpectedly. Those preparations reportedly include discussions surrounding continuity planning, ceremonial responsibilities, and the long-term stability of the institution itself. Comparisons have already begun emerging to previous moments of succession anxiety throughout modern royal history. Periods when uncertainty surrounding the crown triggered waves of speculation, emotional instability, and institutional fear. Palace insiders now reportedly worry that if Charles's condition declines suddenly, the monarchy could face growing instability at precisely the moment it needs confidence and unity the most. And as those fears continue spreading through both the palace and the public consciousness, one emotional reality remains impossible for senior royals to escape. Behind the constitutional pressure and institutional planning lies a deeply personal family tragedy unfolding in real time. And as Britain quietly braces for what may come next, one final emotional reality continues to echo through palace corridors: the bond between two siblings now facing the unthinkable together. Behind the ceremonies, the uniforms, and the palace walls, this is ultimately the story of a family confronting fear in real time. A son watching his father weaken, a sister refusing to abandon her brother, and a monarchy struggling to appear unbreakable, while quietly preparing for one of the most painful transitions in modern royal history. As the emotional weight surrounding King Charles III continued settling over Buckingham Palace, insiders began describing a royal household transformed by uncertainty, reflection, and quiet heartbreak. What had once been viewed publicly as an institution built entirely upon permanence and discipline was now revealing something far more human behind closed doors. Reports suggest Prince William and Princess Anne have become more united than ever during this deeply painful period, bound together not simply by duty to the crown, but by the shared emotional burden of watching Charles confront the most difficult chapter of his reign. Palace insiders whisper that the bond between them has strengthened dramatically as fears surround. The king allegedly intensified behind the scenes. William, once seen primarily as the future of the monarchy, now reportedly finds himself leaning heavily upon Anne's experience, resilience, and emotional steadiness as the institution navigates an atmosphere filled with anxiety and uncertainty. Meanwhile, Anne herself is said to have become fiercely protective not only of her brother, but of the fragile unity holding the royal family together during this emotionally devastating moment. According to those familiar with palace operations, Charles's health concerns have evolved into far more than a private family struggle. They have become a defining emotional turning point for the monarchy itself. The emotional consequences reportedly extend far beyond constitutional discussions or succession planning. Staff members, advisors, and even longtime palace veterans allegedly describe a growing atmosphere of urgency spreading quietly through royal corridors, where every private conversation now carries a deeper emotional significance than before. For decades, the monarchy survived by projecting certainty even during periods of scandal, criticism, and institutional pressure. But this crisis feels profoundly different because it strikes directly at the emotional heart of the royal family itself. Reports suggest royal traditions that once offered structure and stability are now colliding with deeply personal heartbreak behind closed doors. The crown still demands composure, public appearances still require discipline, constitutional responsibilities still continue. Yet insiders whisper that beneath the formal schedules and carefully managed statements, senior royals are privately struggling with fear, exhaustion, and the growing realization that the future may arrive far sooner than anyone expected. At the same time, public support for Charles reportedly continues growing as uncertainty surrounding his condition spreads across Britain and beyond. Many observers now view the king through an increasingly emotional lens, seeing not only a monarch carrying constitutional responsibilities, but also a father, brother, and grandfather attempting to endure enormous personal suffering while remaining devoted to duty. That emotional connection between the public and the monarchy has reportedly intensified the pressure on senior royals even further. Because while the institution fights to preserve stability externally, internally it now faces both emotional and constitutional strain at the exact same moment. Sources familiar with royal discussions claim there remains no clear certainty regarding what comes next. The future of the monarchy still feels unsettled, fragile, and emotionally charged. Yet despite the fear spreading behind palace walls, one principle reportedly continues guiding William, Anne, and the senior members of the royal family forward. Duty above all else, even as heartbreak shadows every private meeting and every difficult conversation. The monarch, feet high, continues moving forward because it believes it must. And perhaps that is the most tragic reality of all. Behind the grandeur of the crown stands a family quietly enduring unimaginable emotional pain while knowing the institution can never afford to stop. Because within the House of Windsor, the greatest battles are often fought not in public speeches or royal ceremonies, but in the silent moments when duty collides with heartbreak, and the crown demands strength no matter the cost. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.